Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Trinidad and Tobago and Canada discuss areas of mutual benefit. The Community Development Minister says that reducing the poverty level in TNT requires providing empowerment to citizens, and 90 roads to be paved in the Penal-Debe area by fiscal year's end. Thank you for joining us. Several areas of common interest between Trinidad and Tobago and Canada have been built upon, including crime detection and prevention. This development comes as Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar continues her official state visit to Canada.
Canada's direct investment in Trinidad and Tobago has been on the rise for the past 10 years.
And it's our intention to ensure that on this visit we deepen and expand the tradition of bilateral and economic cooperation between Trinidad and Tobago and Canada.
Halfway through her official state visit to Canada, on the invitation of Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper, Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar has made several advancements in deepening the relations between both countries. The Honourable Prime Minister arrived in Ottawa on Wednesday and visited Parliament Hill on Thursday. Both Prime Ministers affirmed the importance of bilateral trade and investment, the centrality of free markets to mutual prosperity, and a keen desire to strengthen collaboration in the financial, oil and gas, and energy sectors. Canada and Trinidad and Tobago share an interest in improving security throughout the Americas. To this end, the leaders welcomed the signature of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Ministry of National Security of Trinidad and Tobago and the Canadian Commercial Corporation concerning the development and implementation of projects in the field of defense, security, and related infrastructure. The MOU will facilitate closer ties between the two countries, including through the provision by Canadian companies of technology and services to enhance the capacity of defense and security institutions in Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Ministers Harper and Persad-Bissessar also noted that Canada's anti-crime capacity building program is supporting Trinidad and Tobago in modernizing criminal investigations. This country has been part of Canada's military training and cooperation program since 1970, and in support of their shared desire to expand defense relations, the Prime Ministers welcomed the signature of another MOU to help Trinidad and Tobago take a greater role to provide regional military capacity building training. There were several other projects that were agreed upon by both Prime Ministers, and this trend is expected to continue during the next few days. The Honourable Prime Minister is expected to depart Canada on Saturday to return to Trinidad and Tobago. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
The Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development has been charged with responsibility of producing a spatial development plan for Trinidad and Tobago. The ministry is currently conducting national consultations which will see state agencies and members of the public sharing their views on the holistic development realities of the country.
The National Spatial Development Strategy is the overarching framework that will spatially represent the socio-economic and environmental development priorities in Trinidad and Tobago. The National Planning Task Force under the Town and Country Planning Division of the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development is currently conducting national consultations toward the formation of the strategy. The NSDS is expected to address national issues such as hillside development, housing provision, land use conflicts, the growth poles, and disaster vulnerability. Speaking at the Grand Ballroom of the Cascadia Hotel at the NSDS workshop on Wednesday, Chairman of the National Planning Task Force, Dr. Asad Mohammed, gave an example of how the strategy would be able to resolve and even further prevent such issues.
The conflict between agricultural land and land for housing. Now, this is not right and wrong. These are two rights. The right to have land for agriculture and the right to have land for housing. And sometimes the same planning and locational and other factors that determine it being good for one may also determine it being good for the other. So how do you resolve these matters? Well, they're not easy decisions, and we need to find mechanisms to do that. And that is, we need to have clear, agreed policies and objectives and strategic documents and guides to allow us to resolve those And we have to agree on those beforehand. So when we encounter the issues, we don't have to recreate the wheel at that particular time. It's clear how we'll approach it. So we'll not, by doing planning, get rid of these potential conflicts, but we'll provide a framework and guidelines to achieve those.
The last National Physical Development Plan was determined in 1984, and this latest strategy will not only build on the NPDP, but will pave the way forward for the next 20 years. The Honourable Minister of Planning and Sustainable Development, Dr. Bohindradat Tiwari, says each ministry has been given a May 15th deadline to make written comments on the first draft of the plan that was previously completed, as well as to make proposals and suggestions.
We are moving to an era in which communities are going to become involved in a transparent process and know what is happening in their communities so that they can object if they do not agree. So we are moving to an era of greater democracy, trying to use these structures that we are creating for national development to make that possible. And we are also, and we've started the process here since 2011, moving to an era of greater participation in the development process.
One consultation was completed previously, and 3 others will follow at the Learning Resource Center of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, followed by Naparima Bowl, San Fernando, and then in Tobago. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Minister of Community Development, the Honourable Winston Peters, says reducing the poverty level in Trinidad and Tobago requires providing empowerment to citizens. Through the Community Development Fund, CDF, the ministry hopes to do so. The minister was speaking at the appointment of a new steering committee set up to oversee the fund.
Tackling the issue of poverty in Trinidad and Tobago starts at empowering people through a multi-pronged approach. And to ensure this takes place in the right way is the Community Development Fund, CDF. The Community Development Fund, set up back in 1996, is aimed at ridding poverty in Trinidad and Tobago. However, change is coming to the program as a new steering committee with the powers to govern and guide the CDF's affairs received their instruments of appointment on Wednesday. Committee member and acting permanent secretary Donna Faraz says fundamental to the program is building holistic community.
We have programs under our community mediation program and under the National Alcoholic and Drug Abuse Prevention Program. So together, and along with the work of the CDF, the Ministry of Community Development is really trying to set about building holistic communities, because we recognize that holistic communities will become resilient communities, which is at the base of our National Development Thrust.
Minister of Community Development Winston Peters explained the challenges the world was facing in its fight against poverty eradication as a result of the downturn in the global economy. He says this has forced efforts to be further strengthened at both the global and local level.
However, the prevailing world economic condition since 2008 has resulted in a slowdown in the progress made in reducing and alleviating poverty. This is further compounded by issues of crime and antisocial behavior and activities which continue to plague segments of our society. As a matter of fact, according to the Hansard report, the poverty level in Trinidad and Tobago was estimated as 21.8% in 2012, which means that we have to redouble our efforts in order to bring it back to some form of normalcy.
Managed by a 7-member steering committee which includes public officers, representatives of the private sector, civic society and Tobago, the program aims at making its services better known. The minister explained how the new board will work in ensuring proper implementation steps are taken towards alleviating poverty.
The committee is mandated to, 1, define and administer the policies of the fund, direct, supervise and control the operation of the fund with transparency and accountability, and ensure that the stipulated financial audit of the fund operation is in fact undertaken in a timely fashion.
The other members of the committee include Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Community Development, Donna Faraz, and Program Director Harold Gupol. The committee is expected to serve for a period of 2 years. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
More news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The new Minister of National Security, Emmanuel George, hopes to make another appeal to Cabinet to release more funds in a bid to meet the infrastructural needs of various communities. The minister made this pronouncement in his capacity as Minister of Works and Infrastructure last Sunday.
On Sunday, the then Minister of Works, Emmanuel George, who is now the National Security Minister, joined a Member of Parliament for Carnival Central, Minister of the People and Social Development, Dr. the Honourable Glenn Ramadasing, to tour critical areas in his constituency.
We have had some work done by the Pure, which we were very happy for, but the work needs to continue. This particular road is a major access between Caparo, which is on one end of the constituency, and Chickland, which is on the other end closer to the highway. And therefore it is an important route for the villagers in terms of their agricultural produce, getting their children to school, those who have children who go to school on the other side.
According to Dr. Ramadasing, at least 14 major landslips, of which at least 5 can be classified as critical, have been identified in Carnival Central alone.
It's an important artery, and we need this road repaired so we can open up the constituency to get better business, better trade, and better exchange between the villages.
He also says 5 bridges in the constituency have been identified as critical. Speaking to reporters, the newly sworn-in Minister of National Security, Emmanuel George, says he will not trivialize any of the constituents' concerns.
Fixing all of the landslips is a very, very costly exercise, and we therefore have to identify the major ones and deal with them in order of priority, so to speak. Yes, we have to be approaching Cabinet for approval to get more money, because the allocations that we've had for this year are not going to be sufficient to address all of the needs of all of the communities and constituencies who have very, very dire landslips in their constituencies.
He says they are all important, but it will take time to address each and every concern due to years of neglect, and it will take time to address all the issues. Minister Ramadasing hopes that by improving the infrastructure of the Karapu Main Road, it will help to bring the communities of his constituency closer together by making access a bit easier. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Local Government Minister Dr. Suraj Ratan Rambachan says 90 roads will be paved in the fiscal year in the Penal Debe area. He was speaking at the consultations on local government reform in Penal, where he also praised the corporation for its efficiency.
So for this fiscal year, 90 roads are going to be paved by local government in the Penal Debe Regional Corporation. 90 roads.
The local government minister revealing future projects for the Penal Debe Regional Corporation. Dr. Rambachan is also giving an update on the new projects which have been assigned to the Penal Debe Regional Corporation.
April 15. Under drainage and irrigation, you had a total of 49 projects. As of date, 35 of those projects have been completed, 8 are in progress, and 6 have not started as yet. So 43 out of your 49 projects have either finished or started. In terms of recreation facilities, you had 10 projects, 7 have been completed, 2 are in progress, 1 not started. In terms of local roads and bridges, you had 45 projects, 30 have been completed, 9 are in progress, and 6 not yet started. 39 of the 45. Now, you cannot ask for better performance than that in 6 months in a local government corporation.
The local government minister is commending the Penal Deby Regional Corporation for their efficiency in completing most of their projects.
In the history of local government, this is the first year that within 6 months of the financial year, local government has drawn down 80% of their PSIP money. In other words, of the 228 million given to the 14 corporations, they have drawn down 80%. And your corporation, Penal, and I want you to give them a round of applause, have drawn down 100%. You know what that means? That means that for the first time in Penal, in 6 months, your regional corporation has virtually finished all its projects.
He is pledging to work towards ensuring that there is equity and balance in the monetary allocation to the various regional corporations, while also highlighting the imbalance which he says exists in the regional corporation's budget.
You cover 10 times more square kilometers than Point 14, and Point 14 gets just $4 million less than you, 56 million for recurrent, and 17.4 million, 1 million more than you for the development works.
Verna Barath, News 4.
News 4 Sports is up next. Stay with us. The Caribbean Football Union qualifying tournament for the 2013-2014 CONCACAF Champions League will kick off at the Atto Boldon Stadium in Cuba on Friday with Group 1 competition. TT Pro League clubs Caledonia AIA and W Connection will be vying for the sole automatic spot to the prestigious tournament, but according to Connection's David John Williams, this scenario is not best for the region's reigning top clubs. Wayne Cunningham has more.
W Connection FC were runners-up to Pro League counterparts Caledonia AIA in the last edition of the Caribbean Football Union Club Championship. The 2013 tournament kicks off on Friday at the Atto Boldon Stadium in Cuba. Connection's president, David John Williams, told us more about this year's competition.
Well, it's the qualifier for the CONCACAF Champions League, which is the Caribbean Club Championship, which starts at the Atto Boldon Stadium, which involves 4 teams in the Trinidad group, which is Caledonia AIA, Antigua Barracudas, Baltimore Sportive from Haiti, and of course W Connection in the host club. The winner of that group automatically qualifies for the CONCACAF Champions League, which is a very important tournament for us at W Connection, and of course Caledonia are looking forward to it too. And the second place team goes in a playoff with the second place team out of the Jamaica group. The Jamaica group has 2 Jamaican teams, a team from Puerto Rico and a team from Haiti. It's not a knockout tournament, it's a round robin, so it's going to be a point system. Each team plays each other, so every day is going to be a doubleheader. So on the first night, and the second game will be Caledonia AI versus W Connection, and the first game on the first night will be Baltimore Sportive from Haiti versus Antigua Barracudas. So each team plays each other, so every night, Friday, Sunday and Tuesday will be doubleheaders. And it's going to be a point system, 3 points for a win, of course 1 point for a draw. And if there are 2 teams similar points, goal difference will then come into play.
The unique situation of having 2 local teams in the same group was brought about due to financial constraints with clubs and the CFU. Those constraints are also the catalyst for the local teams serving as hosts for Group 1.
Hosting the tournament means coordinating the arrival of the match officials, the transportation coordination, the hotel accommodation in terms of what happens, their meals and the official meals. The teams are responsible for their own accommodation and meals, and we are just coordinating the tournament. Caledonia is also hosting the tournament along with us.
The W Connection boss shared his thoughts on being in the same group with AIA.
Well, as football, if we are going through to form and Caledonia win the other group, we'll eventually have to meet them. So it's disappointing that we're meeting Caledonia, but at the same time, we have to do what we have to do, and I guess Caledonia will be thinking along the same lines. Well, we have won the Caribbean Club Championships on 4 occasions. We always look forward to playing in the CONCACAF Champions League. It's a massive tournament for us, and we, no disrespect to local football, but we will give up a league championship to play in the CONCACAF Champions League year in, year out. So it's a big tournament for us, and we set our goals very, very high to make sure that we qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League for 2013-2014.
Mr. John Williams did not hesitate when asked where will his strongest challenge come from.
I guess Caledonia AI, they are a form team. They've been doing well over the last 2 years. They experienced the CONCACAF Champions League last year, and I know they'll be looking forward to it. So I think Caledonia on form will be the most challenging team. I just want to tell Trinidad and Tobago to come out and support the local teams. It's a very important tournament for us, and in case they don't know, getting into the CONCACAF Champions League is a qualifying tournament for the World Club Championship. So obviously the Champions League is a big tournament, and we want Trinidad and Tobago to come out and support their local teams, and they'll see some quality football.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
When we come back, national consultations on Carnival. For years, the production of Carnival celebrations have been plagued with criticisms from persons of all sectors of society. To ensure that the views of all involved are taken into consideration, the National Carnival Commission has embarked on national consultations, which recently ventured into East Trinidad.
The national product, that is Carnival, is being recognized as being just that, a product that must be developed, enhanced, marketed properly, and of course ensure its economic viability. With this in mind, the National Carnival Commission embarked on the Carnival Stakeholders Consultation, which engages the public toward the strengthening of everything Carnival. The first of the series of consultations was held in Port of Spain, and a San Fernando leg followed. Recently, the NCC rolled into Arima, where the focus of the consultation was on regional carnivals in North and East Trinidad. Representatives of the 32 regional carnival committees in these two areas, which are a part of the much wider 52 regional carnival committees in Trinidad and Tobago, attended the event, armed with their suggestions that may have been overlooked before that time. Addressing those in attendance, Minister of the Arts and Multiculturalism, Dr. the Honorable Lincoln Douglas, says there is a great number of carnivals which take place throughout the world.
And these people are requesting from us in Trinidad and Tobago that we provide some kind of technical support, some kind of developmental support, some kind of way. And what we're dealing with is how can we take the product that we have as Carnival, create a entrepreneurial package that we could sell around the world and deliver our product, our mass men, our wire benders, calypsonians, Spanish. Pan alone probably have about 18 industries in it alone, you know? And this is where we are moving towards.
The Honorable Minister says this year's Carnival celebrations have proven that the base of Carnival has expanded, which is critical to its development. In the same breath, he maintained that there must be order and structure to ensure that Carnival stakeholders and the country at large receives value for the work that is put into the national celebration. The consultation was divided into 4 specific groups which looked at the different areas affecting regional carnivals.
And the strategies that we identify, I rest assured that those will be fed into the NCC's overall strategy. And once we get adequate funding from our Ministry of Arts and Multiculturalism, we will try to ensure that we implement those strategies, because it's all well and good to come up with a strategy, but the key is really in implementation, which is what we want to be focusing on.
Following the group discussions, the collective views of those in each group were presented and recorded. Citizens can look forward to the results of the national consultation in the production of Carnival 2014 onward. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for watching.